10 facts about death.
Just let me know.
Oh god. And then maybe the past, and then I'm done.
This year, some 57 million people are expected to cease existence and revert back to their natural state of non-existence. Commonly defined.
Isn't that a shit topic, man? Death. The thing is, though, the older you get, the less you care. Like, the older I get, the less I'm scared of death. It's really weird, man. Like, sure, I'm scared of it. I don't want to have it. But the older you get, the more you're like, gonna happen anyway.
As death. Roughly 2/3 will die of a mysterious and as of yet incurable disease known as aging. Well, technically and medically speaking, old age is not in and of itself lethal, but it nonetheless weakens your body so as to make you less capable of combating that which is. Nevertheless, death as a result of age-related conditions is clouded in mystery, as we have yet to discern precisely why we age. Current understanding implies no singular element commands the aging process, but rather a combination of multiple interconnected factors. For example, the limits imposed by telomeres on cell division implies obsolescence may be programmed into our DNA. Manipulation of specific genes in other animals and organisms can have drastic effects on the aging process. Furthermore, numerous studies have evinced that calories accelerates aging and thus less food could potentially extend longevity.
Shit, fucking, I have... Dude, that genuinely hurts me. Like, I'm not even kidding. Less calories makes you age less? I just ate a fucking whole Christmas, motherfucker. Dude, that actually hurt.
So stop eating and you'll live forever. Who eats a burger that way? On the opposite side of the spectrum, aging may simply be a result of accumulative damage and waste. While the human body is capable of maintaining and repairing itself, the processes responsible are not infallible. Over time, an accumulation of separately insignificant failures may collectively become significant so as to sporadically degrade various bodily functions. If gerontologists do manage to isolate the precise nature of aging, we may one day be able to decelerate, prevent, or even...
Yeah, I've read that in the book I was reading this year, Homo Deus, that it looks like in the future we will reach a point where we can stop aging, which brings a lot of issues scientifically, society, ethically. A lot of issues are coming with that.
Hanging has been a common method of both suicide and homicide ever since the invention of rope and human necks. Today, hanging is primarily associated with hanging from a noose, but the word may also describe crucifixion, impalement, or just a general state of suspension upon death. At some point, or more likely over an extended period of time, coroners and others remarked that male hanging victims often died with priapism, which is a medical way of saying they frequently died with an erection. In fact, it is the belief of some historians that not one but 2 poles were erected upon the crucifixion of Jesus Christ.
Fucking heresy over here, bro, man, jeez.
And that some artistic renditions of his divine likeness was more accurately hung than others.
Jeez,
though
bro.
thy holy loins was frequently covered with drapes like the Renaissance version of pixelization, so the state of his majesty can merely be inferred. In any case, this discovery gradually evolved into a treatment for erectile dysfunction, as non-lethal strangulation produces the same effect.
That's
which
true.
In turn...
David Carradine died like this. There's people that choke themselves and that leads to more erections. That really
evolved into erotic asphyxiation.
Your dad
the
told me he's
exact
into that.
physiological cause is not entirely clear, but a general inhibition of normal brain activity due to pressure or injury to the brain or spinal cord appears to be responsible.
Jeez.
The fear of death.
The craziest thing I've ever heard is that there's studies and there's papers and stuff that when people got beheaded by the guillotine, they were still sentient for 30 seconds. Dude, you can't fucking read that shit up, man. When you get clean beheaded, right, you are still there for like 10 to 30 seconds, which makes sense, right? You're still like, and that is the scariest thing I've ever heard, man. Imagine you're still there once you are beheaded for 10 seconds. That must be the...
is known as THANATOPHOBia, and fearing the end of our existence can be so overwhelming that many seek any explanation that promises continuation
like religion.
in place of termination.
They're looking for
in
an
other
easy
words,
way.
an afterlife. As far as science is
Because you're too
concerned,
scared of the
death is
truth.
the cessation of brain activity followed by natural decomposition of the body. One could argue that death is merely the absence of life, much like a shadow is the absence of light. But who is this science to tell us what to believe?
There's this cool idea I once read that death is the end of the universe, because in physics we have a thing called the timeline, right? The line T, you know it from school, T. The moment you die, your T timeline is gonna stop for you. That means in your own universe, the universe stops existing, man. Everything ends. There's nothing anymore, because your personal timeline T ends forever.
When we could ask those brought
like that
back
thought.
to life after death. Between 10 to 20% of cardiac arrest survivors recall near-death experiences, memories from when they were clinically dead and thus unconscious. Revived persons often report similar experiences, such as a strong sense of
that's so
peace,
scary.
love, and happiness, the perception of one's dead body from an outside perspective,
so scary,
a review of one's life experiences, interactions with deceased loved ones or supernatural entities, and a light at the end of a dark tunnel.
The light of the end of the dark tunnel is the birth channel of your new mother, because you're getting reborn.
Studies have found that these experiences are largely culture dependent. For example, Christians
Yeah, I will always think it's just a trick by your brain as a coping mechanism. It's the final cope.
are more likely to perceive angels, while Hindus are more likely to perceive gods of the underworld. Entities who escort a deceased towards an afterlife are known as psychopomps. But you are neither more nor less likely to have...
Isn't that fucking crazy? That each and every one in here, you, me, we're all gonna die one day. That is crystal clear. Some of us next year, some of us in 50 years. Some of us will be rich, some of us not. Some of us will have sex. You never know, but we're all gonna fucking die. You and me, bro. All of us, dude. It's gonna fucking happen. And I never know if that's so bad, you know? Because if you think about it, isn't death what makes life livable? If you will be immortal, like we see that with the Elder and Warhammer, right? You will be bored. You will get bored. There will be no ambition. There will be no drive. In a weird way, death makes life worthwhile. In a weird fucking way. No, I'm Leonidas the Spartan.
have a near-death experience just because you are religious,
And it
as
connects all
NDEs
human
by
beings, yeah.
atheists and others are just as common. Many find comfort in these
Without death,
reports, as
life
they
is
may
pointless,
serve
yeah.
as affirmation of a life beyond, but it's worth pointing out that clinical death is not the same as what most of us perceive as death. The reason you can be revived when clinically dead is that while your heart and breathing may have ceased, your brain is still active. It is only...
I wonder how many TommyKay viewers have died over the years. Dude, there's probably one guy at least that died in the last 4 years watching me. F in the chat for that guy. I do that sometimes. F in the chat for the random guy that died. F in the chat for fallen brother. I can't write. Why can't I write? What the fuck, eh? There's the F. F in the chat. There's probably someone that died, bro. I remember there was a viewer who always said he had lung cancer. I don't see him anymore. His name was something with A. But the point is, man, he's just one lap ahead, man. We're all gonna get there too.
once your brain activity stops that you are legally dead, and no one has ever returned from this stage of complete cessation. While humans may be stuck with pathetic mortal bodies, some animals have transcended this futile existence and exhibit biological
sponges and shit, right?
immortality. One such creature is the immortal hydra. Hydras are tiny freshwater animals that look like miniature octopuses. While humans and our sad excuse of a body grows weaker with age, the hydra is just as strong playing bingo as when it graduated high school. In other words, they show no signs of aging nor the adverse effects commonly associated with it. While its regenerative properties are poorly understood, the hope is for an improved understanding to...
I'm gonna walk into heaven and he's gonna be like, Tommy, can we play here for? I'm like, shut up, I have no time. Come on, I just fucking died, man, fuck off.
aid in our quest for human immortality. Other creatures exhibiting some form of biological immortality include various species of jellyfish, lobsters, and flatworms.
That's crazy, man. A lobster, like a very complex...
There's a unit of measurement known as a micromort. The name is a portmanteau of the words micro and mortality and measures the probability of sudden death in any given context. 1 micromort means the probability of death is 1 in 1 million. For example, approximately 1 out of every 150,000 skydiving attempts in the US result in death, which means that skydiving is rated at roughly 7 micromorts per jump.
You know, me and Lisa were just watching a movie, I forgot what it's called, but it's with Andrew Garfield, and it's about a guy who was writing a musical called Rent. And he just randomly died at the age of, I don't know, 37 or something from a brain aneurysm. Just randomly. He was just like, hey guys, what's... Boom, gone. Like my grandpa also. My grandpa was kind of cool. He was like healthy and boom, gone instantly. Makes you think could happen at any moment, right? Like literally, I'm not kidding. Sometimes I poop and I push very hard and like, bro, don't push too hard. You're gonna fucking die. You might have a fucking burst in your brain. I really believe that. God, you never fucking know, bro.
In order to be exposed to 1 micromort of risk, you would have to ride a bike for 10 kilometers, drive a car for 400 kilometers, or fly with commercial airlines for 10,000 kilometers.
Driving a car for 400 kilometers is 1 death value thingy. Ooh.
Doing something as simple as getting out of bed at 90 years of age will expose you to a daily dose of over 300 micromorts. The deadliest job in America is said to be the presidency, which clocks in at a staggering 186.
That's stupid. When was the last time a president died like that?
1,000 micromorts.
That seems not right.
Which is why I decided to make videos on the internet instead.
Joe Biden.
In most cultures, death is associated with a specific personification and commonly takes the shape of the Grim Reaper, a skeleton cloaked in a dark robe carrying a scythe used to reap the souls of the dead. But some ancient cultures personified death in a much less menacing fashion.
I always liked that, man.
For example, the ancient Greeks worshipped a god of death known as Thanatos. He was often depicted as a bearded...
I always hoped or would have loved if our culture, like Western culture, would be more positive towards death, right? It's all about culture, right? Like imagine someone dies and then you have a celebration. You get drunk and you celebrate their life and stuff.
A man or a child with wings that merely guided the human soul into the afterlife. In other words, a psychopomp. The Egyptian god Osiris was depicted as a man with green skin and was more often revered than feared. This modern depiction of a menacing skeleton or demon can largely be attributed to the most devastating pandemic humanity has ever faced, the Black Death. This horrifying medieval plague may have reduced the European population by as much as 60% and consequently gave rise to a more dismal depiction of the Grim Reaper as to more accurately reflect the hopelessness and dismality of this plague.
Scary shit.
Well, most depictions at least. Sometimes death is just ecstatic to play some mortal board games. Just look at that face. That is the face of a skeleton ready to play some chess.
Hvem er du? Jeg er døden.
There's a rare mental disorder known as COTARD syndrome, and persons afflicted often deny the existence of one or multiple body parts, but in some extreme cases, patients deny that they themselves exist, and paradoxically come to believe that they are dead. Named after French neurologist Jules Cotard, in 1880 he described a middle-aged woman who believed her body was completely hollow, with the exception of her skin and bones. As such, she insisted she didn't need to eat and eventually died of starvation.
It's just a mental illness,
Strangely enough, victims of this disorder often believe themselves to be immortal, as from their delusional perspective, you can't die if you're already dead. Can't really argue with that logic. A more recent case from 2012 describes a man who, after suffering a stroke, grew convinced he was dead. He told his doctor, I guess I'm dead. I'd like to ask for your opinion. But when asked if he believed it possible for a dead man to speak, he recognized the contradiction, yet paradoxically maintained his belief of non-existence. He further elaborated, I feel I am dead, but I'm talking with you in this world. I do not know whether I am alive or not. I am unable to realize that I'm alive. A few months later, his condition fortunately improved and he no longer believed himself to be dead, yet he maintained that he once had been. And he also believed that Kim Jong-il was a patient at the same hospital.
He obviously had something in his brain.
Naturally. In 2007, a middle-aged man in Bosnia...
Like sometimes, man, I even this sounds so awkward, but I wouldn't say excited, but I'm very curious about death. I was once watching this really successful TV show, This Is Us, very successful, right? And there's a doctor dying, and they're like, so how do you feel? You're gonna die now. And he's like, well, I'm curious to see what's on the other side. I really felt that. It's just, you're kind of curious. You're like, well, let's find out. I mean, it can't be that bad. If it's fucking eternal nothingness, then what the fuck do you care?
Decided to fake his own death in an effort to uncover how many friends and family members would attend his funeral. Unfortunately for him, only one person attended his fake service, and that person was his mother. The thing is, this is a quite common fear because no one wants to die alone, and if no one attends your funeral, then that's likely to have been the case. Actually, I'm surprised there isn't a specific phobia for dying alone, so let's create one. Okay, thanatophobia is the fear of dying, and monophobia is the fear of being alone. So naturally, monatophobia is the fear of dying alone.
No, that's very
anyway,
sad.
The fear of a lack
That's
of
so
funeral attendees is so common that in the UK, you can preemptively pay a company known as Rent a Mourner to have random persons attend your funeral and act as if they mourn your passing.
What the fuck?
In early 1921, an American named Thomas Bradford decided he was going to prove the existence of an afterlife. In order to realize such an impossible task, Bradford reasoned that the most logical course of action would be for him to commit suicide and then communicate the existence of an afterlife from beyond the grave.
That's the point, right? I remember a story that Boogie once said, Boogie the YouTuber. His mom was dying, and he talked with his mom, and he said, listen, Mom, I know this sounds like a meme, but if there's an afterlife or some shit, I need you to show me a sign. And that is a genius fucking trick. I mean, it's scary, right? Like, if you die soon, Chet, if you die soon, contact me so I know. But then the problem is that you contact me, I'm like, oh, what the fuck, it's a ghost, fuck you, and I don't take you serious, you know? It's a bad deal. But you should always make deals with people around you that, hey, if you die, don't haunt me, jeez, oh god, now I'm scared to make contact. Because Habibi, thank you, Kingi, you guys know, the night my grandpa died, something fucking happened to my room. Something I never talk about. I know I always kind of fish on you, but Habibi, I swear to you, something happened in my room that night that, bruh, that shit was, oof.
He began by publishing a newspaper advert in search for a spiritualistic accomplice that would remain alive and wait for the spirit of Bradford to return from the dead. Thus, undeniably ascertain...
Your ex-girlfriend. What are you talking about, man? I'm gonna whisper in your ear, Tommy, when Ben alone.
different plane of existence. A foolproof plan, or at least
Tell us
a woman...
I can't. I promise I can't. I feel like one day I will tell the story. Maybe one day. But I made a promise to myself to never tell anyone. Because maybe I'm scared that the magic is gone. I don't think I can tell it. I don't think. Because maybe it's just me coping. It'd be kind of dumb if I say it now, bro. It's fucking stupid. Yeah, I think I want to tell it one day to soothe someone. I'm kind of waiting that one day someone is very sad about a death and then I tell that story. Yeah, I'm not gonna
named
tell.
Ruth Doran thought so as she...
But listen, man, that night, man, it was a pretty fucking obvious message, you know? I know it sounds weird, dude, I don't believe in shit. I don't believe in religion and ghosts. I'm full fucking science, dude.
When I die, I will make sure that when you are about to lose in a HOI4MP game, the game will crash and the file will be corrupted. Cheeky smiley face, or every time you lose in AOE4, you lose connection.
Thank you, Shadow Killer. Your name is perfect, man. Does he said no one knows? I didn't tell anyone ever. But, you know, I don't believe in shit, but that night my grandpa died, something happened in my room that was, in my opinion, very obvious. It was like, bro, come on.
quickly responded to Bradford's advert.
Which really, I understand that it could be a coping mechanism of my brain, but since that day, man, I'm much more cool about death. Like, it took Or maybe it's a coping mechanism. I really don't know.
After a
I
few
don't know.
meetings of what I can only imagine must have consisted of intense scrutinization of this ingenious plan, Bradford took his own life on the 5th of February 1921, with the full intention of returning to this plane of existence and relay any juicy details about the world beyond to his
idiot.
lively accomplice. A week later, Doran claimed she had actually been in contact with the ghost of Bradford. And this is some, I am the professor who speak to you from the beyond. I have broken through the veil. I woke up and at first did not realize that I had passed on. I find no great change apparent. I expected things to be much different. They are not. Human forms are retained in outline, but not the physical. I have not traveled far. I am still much in the darkness. I see many persons. They appear natural. There is a lightness of responsibility here, unlike in life. One feels full of rapture and happiness. Make of that what you will.
Jeez.
As previously mentioned, a complete lack of brain activity is, according to modern medical science, the point of no return. Once your brain dies, there is no chance of revival. But some disagrees with this view of death and argues that as long as the brain is left intact, it should be possible to restore brain activity at a later date. At least theoretically. While no one has ever returned from complete brain cessation, it is plausible that future medical advances could allow for that to happen. And this mere plausibility is enough for some individuals to literally put their body on ice in the hopes that in the future they can be unfrozen and resurrected, a practice known as cryonics.
But I've read that's bullshit. I've read a study on that from years ago. The people that freeze themselves are fucked because the ice is going between your cells and is slowly destroying them from the inside. You're gonna have slow cell decay. It's not working. I think they proved that. Thank you, Marcel.
The first person to be cryopreserved was an American by the name of James Bedford, who in 1967 died of cancer and was subsequently frozen. Over 250 individuals have since undergone this expensive procedure, and thousands more plan on joining them. The question is,
you could literally make a firm that freezes people. They will pay you for that, man. You get like money with that.
Is this a form of suspended animation or a freezer for corpses? In 2016, scientists successfully restored a frozen rabbit brain to near perfect condition, demonstrating that sub-zero preservation is feasible. But the next issue is revival. In any case, cryonics is currently one of the most plausible methods of escaping death. So while there is some tangible hope for the future to save us from...
My grandpa was delirious for 2 days before death. Directly before her death, she suddenly got up, looked at the cross in her room and said, "Mom, Dad," and then she died. Yeah, but you know, I always like to be critical with that. Isn't it just the brain having a final coping mechanism to like soothe you or something?
From the cruel...
Oh, Lisa is texting. Okay, final video, Lisa.
...of non-existence, the present will, for the time being, remain a dystopian netherworld filled with pain, suffering, Denmark, death, and despair.
The ultimate last cope.